Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for science today. We've been learning so much about plants and thinking about gardening, and we've had so many great lessons from Miss Jessica about life cycles. So today we're going to talk a little bit about plant parts and functions of plant parts. How many of you know how many parts of a plant there are? There are 6 parts of a plant. Let's start at the bottom. Let's name them all. Okay, we have our roots, we have our stem, we have our leaves, we have our flowers, and then the flowers produce a fruit of some sort. Doesn't really look like a fruit sometimes to us. We don't always eat a plant fruit. And then the last part is the seed. The seed sometimes is inside the fruit. Okay, so we're going to do a little kind of art science lesson today, talking about all the plant parts and their jobs. Okay, so let's start first by drawing in our roots. So I'm going to draw a bunch of squiggly roots. Everybody knows what roots look like, right? You pull up a plant and you have roots. And the job of the roots is to anchor the plant to the ground and to also draw up moisture and food, nutrients for the plant, right? So it's going to hold that plant to the ground nice and firmly, because we get a lot of wind around here, don't we? So the plant needs something to anchor it down to the ground and also to suck up the moisture and the nutrients out of the earth, out of the soil, right? So that's the job of the roots. Roots. Okay, I'm going to label that too. I'm going to show you this all when I'm done. So we have the roots, and then we have our stem, okay, or stems. And sometimes our stems might be long, they might be short, they might be like the trunk of a tree. That's kind of like the stem, right? I'm going to draw a bunch of different stems here. Different lengths. Stems don't all have to be one length. Okay? So those are our stems. Can anyone think of what the job of the stem of the plant is? So the stem is going to come off the roots, and it's going to help prop the plant up. And they're kind of like little straws. It's going to help draw up the moisture and kind of feed it out to the rest of the plant from the roots. So think of it as like a straw sucking up the moisture from the roots and giving that plant structure. Okay? So then we're going to have a bunch of leaves, right? So let's write stems. Okay, then we have a bunch of leaves. So let's draw in some nice leaves. We're just coloring and drawing in leaves. I'll show you guys this in one sec. And your leaves can be all different shapes. You know that work we have at school where we learned about all the different shapes of leaves? So the job of the leaves is to take in the energy of the sun and convert it to food for the plant. That's called photosynthesis. That's a really big word, but you guys will learn a lot more about that in school as you get older. But photosynthesis is that way of taking in all that energy from the sun, and then the plant converts that to food for itself. So it needs those nice flat leaves sometimes. They're not always flat, but that helps to draw in that energy from the sun and take that into the plant. Okay? So those are my roots, my stems, my leaves. So I have to label that. Leaves. What's next? flower. Okay, I'm gonna choose this color. Ooh, nice. So I'm gonna make some different flowers here. So what's the job of the flower? And why are they so colorful all the time? Not all the time, but most of the time. Now that flower is what is going to make the seeds and then the fruit, right? Or the fruit and the seeds and the fruit, they kind of all form pretty much at the same time. So that flower is going to attract the pollinator, right? That's why they're so bright. I'm going to make a few more flowers here and then I'll show you guys. Color it in. So the center of the flower is where that pollination happens. So it often looks like a target so that it says to the bees and the pollinators, come land on me, come land on me. Okay, I'm gonna make one more flower over here. I'm gonna make a purple flower. You guys can make whatever color flowers you want or whatever shape flowers you want, right? Okay, so there's my flowers. Okay, so then I'm going to label that flowers. You see that? Okay, so now we have our flowers. Now the flowers, like I'm looking outside and I see we have apple trees out there. So the flowers, once they get pollinated, so the bee is going to come and it's going to land on the flower. It's going to get a bunch of pollen on it. It's going to land on another flower, get a bunch of pollen on that. And when it does that, it transfers that pollen from one flower to the next, and it pollinates them, which means that it fertilizes them. And then that plant is able to make fruit and seeds. So let's see, what kind of seeds? So let's say this is a pea plant. So over to the side here, I'm going to draw some pea pods, right? And that is what would be the fruit of the plant. So I'll draw a few off to the side here. There's a pea pod. I'll draw a few on here, coming off of the plant. Say this is maybe a sweet pea. So that is what we call the fruit, right? The fruit. And then inside that fruit are the seeds. And the seeds are the peas that we eat. We don't think of it as fruit, we think of it as a vegetable. But that's what we call the fruit of the plant. I'm going to make them so you can kind of see, like you're looking through the plant, the pea pod, and you see the seeds inside. Okay, see that? See my seed inside the pod of my sweet peas? Okay, so we have to label that. We have our fruit, and then inside the fruit is the seeds. Right? So think of some other plants that we have when we cut open an apple. That fruit is basically just a nice little protective package for those seeds. And maybe an animal eats that fruit and it walks off and it deposits some seeds. That's called dispersal. It'll deposit the seed somewhere else and maybe that apple tree will grow. So the fruit is basically, the function of the fruit is that protective package around it. And then the seeds are what help this plant to grow again and again and again and again in another year. So we could save the seeds, or those seeds fall from the tree, or like I was saying, they disperse through the wind or through water or from an animal. Even humans, animals, can disperse those seeds around. So we have our 6 plant parts: roots, stems, leaves, flowers, fruit, and inside the fruit are the seeds. Now I know some of you guys, because you're so smart, you're thinking, well, not all fruit has seeds on the inside. A lot of it does. When you think of peaches, watermelon, there are some fruits that have the seeds on the outside. Can you think of any? I can think of a couple. How about some berries? Raspberries and blackberries and strawberries all have the seeds on the outside. So some fruits and seeds are different. And all plants are very different. When you think of a cactus, they do flower, and then they produce that little chunky fruit sometimes, if you see that when you're out on walks. And then inside of that is the seed pod. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining me today. Make your own plant part diagram. I'd love to see them. Post pictures of them if you can on our group page. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone. Miss you. Love you.